Hi, it's Josephine from the Pointe shop. I'm fitting in Indiana today at the Indiana Ballet Conservatory, and I'm hanging out with Cadence, our very last fitting of the day. And we did a fitting back in April. And back in April, she had an injury on her right ankle. She could not get over her pointe shoes. So the most important thing at that point in April was to just get over her pointe shoes. So we opted for like an injury shoe. And then now that I'm checking, she looks amazing. Now she's almost back to the way that she was. And now we're gonna do another fitting so that we're getting her kind of out of a softer shoe that she was working through, and now we're gonna go back to a harder shoe so she can have a little bit more stability in paw and when she's doing toe hops, so that she can have more support in her shoes. Because before it was more important to roll through, to be able to get over her box. Now it's more important to get stability. So we're gonna go a different direction. The one thing that I wanna point out about Cadence is that her toes are kind of longer. She has this tendency to kind of collapse inside of her shoes because the longer your toes, the more difficult it is to kind of build strength. It's like having really long limbs. It's really hard to build strength. So we want to make sure that her toes are nice and strong, and also that the vamp and the wings on the side of the pointe shoes are really supporting her. So those are the things that I'm looking at. So right now we're going to put on the pointe shoes that she's currently in, that she worked through her pointe shoes or her injury through. And then we're going to look at the difference in a harder shoe. So go ahead and put that on. So currently she's in a shoe right now that has a pretty short vamp and a softer shank that breaks kind of low. And normally I don't go that direction, but for Cadence, we wanted to have something that broke low just so that she can get over all the way. And for longer toes, if her toes bend, she has a lot of flexibility in her toes, so she bends a lot. So if I give her a short vamp with a soft shank, then she's able to get over a little bit better. Because she didn't have a lot of range of motion in her ankles, we couldn't really rely on her ankle flexibility to get all the way over on her pointe shoes. So she's a unique case, a different type of foot. So we're gonna take a look at the shoes that she's in right now. And this really got her strong enough to this point. It's only been what, like a few months?
Yeah, especially since it fully started healing, it's been more like a few weeks.
Yeah.
It was pretty severe through some of the beginning part of the summer, but it's definitely been probably getting better for like a month now.
Yeah.
It's been doing really well.
That's so good. That's so good. I'm so proud of you. Very good. So you can see that it breaks a little bit lower and the vamp ends right here. So even though it looks like the shoe comes up a little bit higher, this part, like half of the top part of the shoe is actually just fabric. So if you fold down the fabric, the vamp actually just ends just about halfway. So it's not quite covering all of her toes, which was fine when we're going through the injury. Come down for me and then parallel and then step up onto pointe. Now the downside to this is that even though it's beautiful and she's getting over and it's doing everything that I wanted her to do, it's not as supportive. So when she is doing the toe hops or when she's doing paw, it's a little bit wobbly. So she's having some issues getting support, which is totally normal because if your shoe is only covering halfway to your toes, then obviously it's not going to support you. So we're going to raise the vamp and we're going to give her a harder shank this time so that she can have a little bit more support. Okay, take those off for me. She's also wearing the stretchy ribbon, which is good. If you have an injury or whatever you're going through, you want to have a little bit more range, and stretch ribbon kind of gives that to you, so that's a good call as well. Okay, so we're going to try that on. So we're going to a pretty hard shank now. So we're going to do a harder shank and higher vamp. The vamp here, it does come all the way up to the end of the fabric. This shoe, see if I fold it down, it's only half. So that's where really your support ends. So that's what you're looking for. Even if I do this, it's almost the same length. It's actually not, it's like half of it. So that's the big difference there. So with longer toes in general, you want a longer vamp just because you want more support. That's not always true. Sometimes I'll give you a shorter vamp regardless of what your toe length is, but in general, you want a longer vamp. Okay, stand up for me. Bring your left foot up on pointe and press up on both. Very nice. And the right one was the one with the injury, but you can almost not tell at all because I think we tried something similar to this back in April, there was no way this girl was getting over this shoe. So she definitely worked really, really hard to get back from this injury. It's gorgeous. Parallel for me. And you won't actually see a whole lot of difference just from this video, step up onto Pointe. But if you saw her in class, you'll see that she's much more supported because she is just in a harder shank with more support with a longer vamp. So if you are having trouble with any part of dancing, whether it's balancing or rolling over or roll through or whatever your problems may be, if you're having issues with your pointe shoes, you can probably find a different shoe that you can work better in. Pointe shoes are also going to be a tool for you to either get stronger or more flexible or rehab through an injury. So you want to change that through and make sure that you're always getting refitted in pointe shoes because your feet are constantly changing. Okay, so if you have any questions, leave that on your comments. Thank you for checking in, and I am headed to Cincinnati tomorrow. So I will see you at Cincinnati Ballet.